Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Up and In It. I'm your host, Adrian Babashoff, and if you're new here, welcome. And if you're wondering what the show is about, it's dedicated 100% to bettering your life through liberty and independence, seeking alternatives to the daily grind, moving from surviving to thriving and living life. Rah! Today, actually this whole week, I'm going to have to break this show up in segments. This is going to be a 5-part series about what it is to live in a third world country. This is the story of from me and my mom and our perspectives of living in South America, Uruguay. And the basis of this show, the message I want to bring to you guys, we did Slab City. We did a 5-part series on that. If you haven't seen it or heard it, go back and check it out. It's a really awesome representation of what an alternative lifestyle looks like. And I thought that you guys might be interested in what it is to live in a third world country and live off the land. I was basically a cowboy. And we did cattle ranching. I don't want to give too much of the story up, but I want to give you guys perspective of alternatives of what it looks like to live differently. And I think this is what has brought me to where I am now. It's what shaped me. It's part of the fertilizer that helped me to grow and be who I am. And I never forgot it. And I've been exposed to so many different kinds of things, and I'm very grateful to have had adventure and to have seen different ways of living, and I think that it's wise for all of us to go visit places such as a third world country and to know how good we have it here. We live in a wonderful country and we have so much opportunity here, but there's also other sides which I want you guys to take consideration and see what is possible, what is it like, what else is out there. We get stuck sometimes, I think, in a pathway of like living in the United States, living in California or wherever you are, that everything's the same, and it's not. And when you start going abroad to other countries, you definitely learn that there's a whole different way of lifestyle. And sometimes, and in some instances, it's a lot cleaner and happier than what we do here. So I hope you guys tune in, enjoy the show. Without further ado, here's me and my mom and our stories of living in South America, Uruguay, in a third world country, completely off the land in the middle of fucking nowhere. Part 1.
Hello, video world.
So we're on. We're up and in it.
We're up and in it.
Well, Jesus. Third world country. You sold everything. You grabbed fucking, at that time, you had 4 children?
Young children.
You picked up from United States of America and took off to South America, Uruguay. And
One way.
We got on a plane. We owned a house, I think. We sold everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And went
Shipped
one way.
what we thought we would need down there to meet us down there.
And we lived off the land, according to like what you said. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we grew our own chicken feed. We made pretty much everything all from scratch.
Yeah, at times when we first started out, we didn't make everything from scratch. It took a little time to get adapted and know what you're doing. But yeah, eventually,
we bought things like rice from Brazil or Argentina, sugar. Yeah, we didn't produce everything, oils and stuff like that. But we produced our own chicken feed. We butchered our own meats and chickens. And so I'm like revisiting and looking for our listeners to like, what the fuck is that experience to not only just live off the land like that, but in a third world country? So fucking let's just hit this shit right off.
Well, the land is land.
Yeah.
I don't care where you go, land is land. I mean, and on the latitude that we were on was probably equivalent to Central California. We didn't get snow. It got cold there in the wintertime, cold enough to kill off bacteria and microorganisms and whatnots. But the summers were a little humid.
Yeah.
Because we were not far from the Rio Negro, which was a tributary of the Amazon, so the moisture and heat would travel down.
We were basically told not to drink the water afterwards. You and I both drink the water from the stream.
Oh God, the things we were told not to do afterward. Yeah. They were just like, you guys are crazy, you don't let dogs lick your face or lick you at all. They stay away from their dogs. Dogs do not sleep in your bed. They're not in your house or anything. It's a moist climate.
Yeah.
So, there are a lot of microorganisms and stuff you want to watch for out on the land, a lot of worms.
I remember, just talk about the climate if we can. Like, I remember our suitcases, our clothes and shit. Reminds me of what they say in Hawaii. Everything just got gray dots, mildew all over it.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like super humid, but then it would get cold enough to have ice. I remember riding the horses to get the cows, and we were trudging through like at least maybe like a 1/4 inch of ice, if not more.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. That was ice.
So I remember, it was how How was it like growing conditions? I don't remember because I was only like 11 years old or something.
Growing conditions were really good. The humidity factor was relative to the house. The fact that the house was at least 150 years old, with a hand-dug basement lined with handmade clay bricks.
Yeah.
So all that wicked up. As time the bricks degrade and everything, so it wicked the moisture out of the land. So it wasn't just that we were in a moist climate, it was also that we were in a very old handmade house. I mean, that thing was fucking amazing. Doors were 15 feet tall. These are the French that built our house.
Mm-hmm.
So it looked just like France back in the day, in late 1800s.
I remember the old keys. They were the big, large
ones.
Oh,
yeah. I still have one, actually.
You see like Alice in Wonderland.
Hand-forged nails to hold the doors together. Hand-forged everything. The locks, the hinges, everything were hand-forged. They were 100 to 150 years old.
Did we have concrete floors there? I think I remember.
Yeah,
we had wood floor in the living room.
Terrible concrete. Yeah, we had wood floor in the living room because the basement was right below it. Yeah.
We had the big hatch that you could go down. I think it was pretty far down there. I think like at least 12, 14 feet deep.
Not at all. It was actually you can stand in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, an adult could stand in it, and that was how far down that was. But you were pretty young, so being a little kid, it probably seemed a lot deeper.
Watching too many Indiana Jones movies and going in the basement.
Oh yeah.
I remember the water faucets would shock you. Nothing was grounded.
Yeah, nothing.
You got shocked too. It wasn't like, oh, zzz. You're kind of like, whoa, good morning. Holy shit, what? Good morning, South America.
Yeah, and our house wasn't as bad as your grandparents' house. They had some weird little copper coil thing that heated the water. It was like a tankless water heater, but it was this little tiny copper coil in a tin can. Oh my God. And you're standing there naked and the water runs over and you're just like, like, I think I'll just stay dirty, thank you. Ow. I mean, I literally saw two birds on the power lines touch each other and explode like in a cartoon. Like exposed wires out there. It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. And we're talking about 30 years ago, though.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure things have changed. Actually, I'm not that sure, but I would hope.
God, I can remember so much to jump around, but to finish off like climate, I remember seeing like purple and green lightning storms.
Beautiful.
Lightning storms that were just intense.
Well, and you have to remember, too, that Uruguay is a delta. Like the Nile River is a delta where the Nile had just thousands of years, maybe hundreds of thousands, I don't know, of years of bringing silt and just dumping it out because the Nile swells like all rivers do.
Yeah.
And to just keep depositing this beautiful topsoil. So Uruguay itself is that delta. And it's right next to Argentina and right below Brazil, where it's flat.
Yeah.
Beautiful farmland, but flat. No mountains, nothing like that. So, yeah, being flat, it's just like when you see Montana or Kansas, those storms that they have. That's what we had. Big, thick black ribbon of clouds coming, and then just the light show was intense. Every color you could possibly imagine in that light show.
I remember
and animals getting struck by lightning on the regular too. Oh yeah.
I remember laying on my horse and the sky. I was looking up at the sky. I just luckily happened to, and a flash of lightning seemed like the entire sky, and everything. The color of the day turned green for like a few seconds.
Right.
Like that
nanoseconds.
Intense.
Yeah, that happened in the night as well.
Yeah.
It was day for a nanosecond.
Yeah.
So weird. It's like mind fuck.
Yeah, big lightning. Like we get lightning here in Southern California. That's like a little, over
Compared
there. Like you said, it lit up. I remember.
Oh yeah.
That's like a whole different lightning.
Well, I wonder if part of that is that the land was so flat, and that lightning doesn't strike down. It actually comes up through the ground and then goes through the clouds. So it's like.
No, it doesn't.
Okay. Anyway. People might want to know why we were there in the first place. We went there to live off the land, which we did. So, people might be like, what the heck are you Southern Californians doing heading out to, of all places, Uruguay, South America? But it was also at the time, I have no idea what it's like right now, but you at that time could move to Uruguay with just a passport, not even a visa, and you could buy property legally and live there and own it. You can get back on a plane and fly back here, and it will be in your family's name forever.
Well,
I don't know what it's like right now, but
for those that don't know, Uruguay is a tiny little country seated right at the corners of Brazil and Argentina, correct? We had the Rio de Plata that
Yeah.
went through.
that's what I just said that.
Oh,
It's a little button.
little button.
And it's so strange. Uruguay is so strange that it's like so flat and there's so little going on. I'm like, God didn't even waste a, not that I believe in God, but I'm just saying,
No.
as a joke, God didn't even waste a natural disaster. There are no natural disasters in
Yeah.
Uruguay. There are no wild animals in Uruguay other than the wild ostrich, the arbutus.
And the iguanas, the Gila monsters.
But I'm saying it's not like a wild
Yeah.
beast that will take you out like a lion or a
Yeah.
bear or something. There's just like nothing there.
Even the animals are fucking bored.
Yeah, even the animals are like, I'm out. Nothing here. Nothing to see. Turn the lights out on your way out.
How about those little beetles we were talking about? Little nyeh, nyeh, nyeh,
Yeah.
and they all go in
Strange
unison.
insects. Lots of strange insects. Yes.
Big horned beetles, the big
Mhm.
giant, the double horns on them. Cutter ants that, remember we'd joke around, they'd carry the baby away.
Yeah.
You'd see them actually carrying sticks and stuff, like
Yeah.
forging roads.
Yeah, the cutter ants, if you watch documentaries on them, they will carry away, like, I do think I recall, I shouldn't even be quoting because I don't remember exactly, but it was something like they'll carry away enough grass that a cow would eat in a day. They'll
Yeah.
carry away in a day.
And their mounds, I remember there would be giant mounds sometimes around.
Well, and that's only the beginning. Their underground is where
Yeah.
their real stuff lies. Their underground, they take the plant material, and they deposit it on the ceiling of all their little caverns. They're huge caverns, extensive caverns, and then the mold that grows on the plant material is what they actually eat.
Hmm.
That was the whole point of it. But yeah, I mean, they were pretty amazing, as all ants are.
One thing that pops to my mind, I remember we dunked the onions, green onions, I think it was, in horse shit and water to keep the cutter ants from eating them.
Yeah, it
'Cause
was
they would just come down and mow.
it's called manure tea.
Yeah.
The Mad Hatter would probably really appreciate that. Manure tea time.
So we moved there with purpose. There was other Russians that
Americans,
congregated.
yeah.
American Russians, yeah. There was a couple families. How many families did we have there? Like 5 or
8.
6? 8? Yeah, at one time, yeah, 8. And we, so we went there just to live off the land and start something new, right?
Yeah. Yeah, to try to escape the matrix and the system here and live free.
That was the Reagan reign, right? President Reagan was.
I'm gonna say Carter.
Uh,
That's interesting that you asked that because I don't even recall. I've never been all that much into politics anyway, but
well, the year was, what, I think we came back in, 87 or 86 or something? Yeah, I think it
I
was
don't know.
somewhere
But
around
we
there.
are jumping around about what
Yeah.
we're talking about anyway.
No, but it was the reason why, or just kind of when, but... So yeah,
Yeah.
you want to talk about why? More? Or?
Whatever.
Well, I'm just trying to tell the story, I guess. I know there's so much that we might have to break this up in part 1 and part 2. And I'm sure if
we
people
were originally
listen...
going to talk about like living off the land and
Yeah.
what that was like. First of all, I went there fully armed. I
Mhm.
thought I had books from North America about how to garden, how to farm, this, that, and the other thing, And I was only like 22, 23 years old, so I was pretty young. I had no idea. All that stuff was just useless down there because it's a whole different climate. I mean, I was so naive, I didn't even realize that the stars were different.
Yeah.
You're in the southern fucking hemisphere. Everything was different. Not just the language, the food, the clothes, and everything else, the bugs. Even the stars were different. I was like, where's my Big Dipper?
I remember seeing the Halley's Comet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We were there for that.
Tail and all.
For
Yeah.
2 weeks. 2 weeks, Halley's Comet was pretty damn visible from where we were.
So you had books and stuff, and like you told me, you had all these ideas, except for the Bosch mixer. You're like, that fucking thing was
Oh, no,
well
I did
worth-
take a lot of tools, but I'm saying gardening-wise, I had
Yeah.
taken down a ton of hybrid seeds.
Mhm.
Tomatoes and this, that, and the other thing, and oh my god, the bugs were just super delighted. They were like, oh my god, I've never seen a salad bar like this before. Boom, they're all gone. I did methods of gardening that I had, been implementing here in California. None of that stuff worked over there.
And I remember you were saying something, you must have got seeds from the people there, but the tomatoes had like this thick thick skin on it.
Well, they were
Is that your phone or mine?
they were the heritage style. Those were old school seeds. All the food at the time we were there, everything from their lettuce, tomatoes, everything were original. So yeah, I mean, over generations of time, those tomatoes were small and very thick-skinned. But like, you'd watch them, if a bug came and took a chunk out of it, took a bite, it would heal itself instantly.
Yeah.
It was still a whole, good, great tomato. You just had to cut that little spot out. You know, the strawberries were little tiny mungy-looking things, but the flavor would burst in your mouth. I had never tasted strawberries. You know, most of the foods there were phenomenal. The flavors were phenomenal.
What exactly did we grow? I know we did the selga, a lot of the Swiss chard, I think, and stuff. Like, what exactly were we growing? Potatoes, I remember.
We grew potatoes, sweet potatoes,
corn,
tomatoes, corn. Yeah, I mean, we pretty much grew everything. Green beans, lots of onions and garlic.
Yeah, I remember garlic. It'd be braided and set up in the galpon in the garage and on the fences, even sometimes trees. They just hang garlic everywhere, like there was fucking warding off vampires.
Well, when we moved, the farm that we bought was 35 acres, and it was a truck farm, which means that their subsistence was by selling their produce in the open market in town. So they grew their stuff and then took it. You know, they'd harvest it the evening before, some of it the morning of, and take it into town before the sun would even come up and go over there and sell their stuff. So when we purchased the farm, all this was already growing on the farm. So we harvested a lot of that stuff, and some of it got replanted, some of it never got replanted. Carrots and... well, again, I did not have any clue how to raise food down there compared to here. The amount of insects, the type of insects, like, it was phenomenal. I mean, when I looked down, I thought they were just lazy people when I saw all these weeds. Like, their garden was surrounded with this 1 foot wide hedge of Swiss chard, and the weeds were allowed to grow in the middle. And so I was just like, oh, it's just like so lazy. So I went in and I weeded the whole thing. Like, within days. There were jackrabbits like the size of a small dog. They came in and they mowed everything down. Everything was gone. The bugs, everything, just mowed everything down. There was nothing left. So, you know, that was just me being uneducated, basically.
So yeah, I remember we grew, I think we did beets and stuff, and like, basically, you were saying we grew a lot of our own food, right?
Most, yeah. And I went in and you know, got like whole wheat from a wheat farmer, and just raw, and then winnowed it, where you throw it in the basket in the air to take the chaff out and everything, and then ground all my own wheat. Did all my own fresh bread and all pasta. Everything was made from fresh wheat. Didn't grow the wheat, but bought or traded the wheat for other things. But we raised all our own meat, made our own sausages, and raised our own chickens.
I remember you said the feeling that you make a big old spread of food, and it's mostly everything you grew yourself. Everything's handmade from scratch. It wasn't like you just go to the grocery store and buy fucking, you know, this and that. So you
the first time that occurred, and I grew up making my own stuff, canning and everything. I grew up with all that stuff, so it wasn't brand new to me. But it was the first time in my life that every single thing on that table, and it was a full spread of canned veggies and homegrown fruit pies and all the meats and everything other than like rice, things like that. You know, we couldn't raise, but it was pretty phenomenal. The feeling of knowing that your basement was full of homemade cheese. I mean, we had a dairy, so
the cream.
I'd make huge wheels of cheese. And fried bread. I don't know if you remember the fried bread. I'd render our own beef fat we'd butcher the steer, and then I'd render the beef fat, and then I'd make the fried bread in our own beef fat.
Powdered sugar on top.
Yeah, homemade cheese inside with tomatoes, homegrown tomatoes and herbs and stuff. And then when we're all full, then just take that same fried bread and roll it in some powdered sugar from Argentina and dessert.
I remember only once on occasion, and I don't know where we were, Argentina or Brazil, and we went over and bought big old sacks of rice, like giant, like probably like 25.
You're probably thinking of wheat.
Huh?
You're probably thinking of wheat.
Yeah. And we went there because it was cheaper, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
no
and
taxes or some shit?
What you probably the only one and only time we did anything like that is we actually didn't even go to another country. It was Uruguay. It was Young. It's called Young. We went and bought seed to plant our farm for the cattle to eat.
Yeah.
We got the seed super cheap. It was super cheap out there. It actually turned out to be really bad seed.
I heard some people buy the seed like wheat that you could feed animals and they just eat that shit.
Yeah, wheatgrass.
There was the possum living gal. I forget
the
her name.
wheatgrass. That's what it was.
Yeah.
It was wheatgrass, but it was terrible seed. Only probably a third of it germinated, so it was really a waste of time and energy.
I mean, shit. We did a horse and plow, the hand plow.
Mm-hmm.
We had the tractor. I remember the discs and everything, but for a while there.
Well, I wanted to know how to do that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's why he was like, grabbed you and just said, told the neighbors, show us how to do this.
I remember a big staple up there was the remolaches. And zapajitos.
Remolacha, it was sugar beet.
Yeah.
They're just beets.
This beets, yeah. It was a
typical
big ass
beets.
beet. Wasn't it? I remember being pretty big.
Yeah, that's the Azucarlito was the company down there that would fund you to grow sugar beets on your property, and they would all you'd have to do is plant them, and they would harvest them, and then you would get like a portion of money from that.
And what was the zapajitos? I think I remember.
The zapajitos were globe squash, the globe zucchini. You can get the seeds from them here. Yeah, they're pretty cool. It's like you can stuff them with things and everything. Yeah. And the zapajos were the big pumpkin squash.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, that was subsistence for winter for sure. We'd throw those on our roof, the tin roof, and they would keep.
That's right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we had, were we able to grow year round? I can't remember.
Yes.
Vegetables?
Very little in the cold, though. Most of it, actually, we really didn't grow too much year round. Basically, we had a winter crop, meaning you harvested your crop for winter.
Yeah.
It was planted in early fall, which is the potatoes, sweet potatoes, the pumpkins, which were the zapajos. Very little, actually. Very little. But lots of meat. We ate a lot of meat down there. It's meat country.
I remember we grew fields of sorghum. And the cows, when we'd open up the gate or something, their eyes would roll to the back of their fucking head. Someone would get so excited they'd shit them, like just shit all over the place. Like they'd be running and shitting at the same time, and they would just go in that field and just.
Yeah, we had to have the electric fence. Yeah, that was our dairy, collective dairy. We had the two other families, 150 head of cattle.
So I remember also that we had to butcher a ton of the chickens. I mean, there must have been at least 100.
No, I had 82 chickens.
Yeah.
And I just kept an eye on them and the ones that were not producing well.
Yeah.
Bad mamas, didn't take care of the mamas or whatever. So that's what you do is you start your chickens, and then the good mamas have their babies. You keep those babies because they have those genetic traits of being a good mama, and a good mama is one that stays on her eggs and turns them and everything and hatches her babies and then is able to protect those babies. You get some mamas lay their eggs, sit on them, and then go, not so much, and then they don't want to be there, and then they're off and on and off and on, and then none of the babies make it. So if they're not good layers either, if they're not steady in their laying, then they're eating more than they're producing, then they go in the pot.
I remember a couple times we'd run over a couple on our way in. It'd be like just every once in a while, the first time I think it was probably like, oh shit, we ran over. After a while, I was like, it's another one.
Yeah. Yeah.
How crazy on the farm, huh? The life and death. I remember baby turkeys. I was so intrigued by them, and then the hawks or something got them, and
all kinds of stuff.
It was very common to.
The weasels, the iguanas.
Yeah.
Iguanas would sneak in. The rats.
The Gila monsters.
Yeah, that's what I said. Iguanas. That's what I meant. The Gila monsters. Yeah.
We'd hunt them with pitchforks, the whole family out there.
Oh my God, man, those things are strong. The first time I found that big old Gila monster, and I took that pitchfork and I went to stab it. I mean, it's like I don't want to kill things. I love living things, but they were stealing the eggs, so it was like that's our subsistence. So I took a pitchfork, stabbed it, and it went right through its eyes, in one and out the other, and into the ground. That thing was thrashing around. It took everything I had in me to keep it from knocking me over.
Like a mini alligator.
It was thrashing around. Yeah, seriously. Yeah, they were pretty amazing.
I remember for some reason somebody telling me that there was the black and white, there was like a orange and white and black, and then there was the green, black and white. And they said the green ones you don't want to get bit by the green ones.
Well, the thing about those guys, though, is if they bite you, they have to bite you and keep biting you. It takes a long time. If you research it, it takes a long time for them to inject any kind of poison into you. It's even true here in the United States, where they have them in the desert states.
You remember knocking all the tarantulas off the walls when you take a shower?
Yeah, I grew up with that here in Southern California, too, though. But yeah, we had an outdoor shower in the beginning, so yeah, there was a time when, snake came right into the outhouse. That was fascinating. I did not know I could jump that fast. Because I didn't know, I didn't know what was poisonous and what wasn't. But we also raised our sheep and learned how to trim the wool with hand trimmers.
Poor things. I remember slicing a couple, like, they got cut pretty good. But we had the hand trimmers. We didn't use the electric trimmers, any of that. Hand trim, sold the wool, and then had the sheep. Then the dogs came along and killed almost the entire herd. And like, oh my God, the stuff you go through. You learn the hard way. I think mostly because people are stubborn. Like when I went there, I was the only one that I knew of the gringos, the Americans, that actually wanted to learn from the Uruguayans. Just teach me. I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, otherwise you're learning slow. It's a slow route of learning, just by hit and miss and process of elimination. There was some grit involved.
You think?
Yeah, I remember you shot yourself with the insulin or the.
Yeah, well, we had all these sheep, and we're supposed to give them injections for worms. Yeah. Because it's so moist there. There are these worms that live in the grass, and these sheep are brought over from England, so a lot of them are still pretty weak in their breed, and then they get this crazy worm from the grass that goes into their head, so you have to inject them. So yeah, I'm sitting there with the injection ready, ready to get the sheep, and the sheep just runs right at me and just runs at me, and literally I put my head down. It just climbs over my head to get over me, and meanwhile I spun around and injected myself. So yay, I don't have worms.
She's wormless.
I'm wormless.
So we did I remember turkeys, we had geese, we had chickens, we had cows, ducks. We had Pato. Remember Pato would sit on top of the horse's back, ride him. Such awesome stuff. Like, what's some of the awesome stories you can remember?
Pato was a female duck. This is what you're talking about. She was just a pet duck that would cruise around. She would come into the kitchen, pop the door open, and check out and see if there was anything fallen from the kids. Drop down from the breakfast table. She would come in and eat, and she would just cruise in and grab whatever she wanted.
Like Pippi Longstocking shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had Ellie, our parrot.
Yes.
They had the green and aqua blue. They were mostly green.
Mostly bright lime green with a touch of aqua blue. Yeah, and the kids there would climb up in the trees. I don't know how they did it, but they'd climb up in those trees, and there were like parrot hotels. You remember your grandpa's house? Yeah. They're like parrot hotels, hundreds of them. They were so loud. But the kids would shimmy up those trees and grab the babies and then go and sell them to wealthy people. And so I ended up buying one and hand raised it. Alley-oop. Rolled around on my shoulder. The thing was fun. Taught all kinds of tricks.
We had the grapes, the patio,
the
with
arbor,
the grapes over the top, and he'd be up there in the grapes, eating grapes, and come land on you. And
well, we trimmed his wings so he couldn't fly. So you had to walk all the way down. But yeah, and had a little place for him to bathe, and he'd cruise over there, take a bath, and climb up on the fence and just, Again, I was so young then. I wouldn't do that to an animal now, but I didn't know what I was doing then. I was just naive. But yeah, I mean, some really amazing food. And one of the things I did want to bring up was how stunningly amazing the use of the windmill was.
Yeah.